Hello, and welcome to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. I'm Isla Garcia, master's degree of nutrition science and registered dietitian, and I'm going to make weight loss realistic, sustainable, and uncomplicated for your busy lifestyle. On this podcast, me and my team of registered dietitians will decipher the latest nutrition research, dissect fad diets, and discuss social media trends for you so you can feel confident knowing what to eat to achieve your health goals. Research suggests that most weight loss programs aren't successful, but my experience has taught me that this is not because the participants aren't committed. It's because those diets are designed by non-nutrition professionals and center around severe restrictions. We are here to provide the facts about the science of weight loss so you can have the success you want and continue living your best life. This month, we're focusing on social life challenges, and I asked ChatGPT to help me make this phrase catchier because I am not the most creative when it comes to that, and this is what we got. Lose pounds, not friends. How to slim down and still have a blast with your crew. A little cringy, but I need to move on with my evening, and so that's what we're going to stick with it for this month. To kick off this theme for the podcast, I'm bringing on Coach Catherine to give lots of healthy weekend tips. We're starting the episode off with our pop culture health coverage by discussing the new WaterTok trend and then moving on to how to increase produce, manage social eating, implementing more structure, and staying in your calorie deficit for the weekend. The overall theme of the episode is don't be too strict and add that produce and exercise where you can. We go into the details of what that can actually look like by giving some client success stories and tips from our own lives, since we're both super social people. Keep on listening if you've ever said the phrase, I do so well on the weekdays, but then it all falls apart on the weekends. Well, thank you for joining us today, Catherine. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Is it warming up there in Ohio, Indiana, your area?
It is a little bit chilly today, but we've had some glimpses of summer, so I'm hoping it's coming to stay soon.
Wow. Yeah. Today I went on a walk right before this episode and it's already 85 degrees, which is
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I'm ready for round 2 of Texas summer, but any summer plans or traveling queen?
Our travel slowed down a bit. We just have a lot of weekend travel, which will be fun. My sister-in-law is getting married this summer, so that will be super fun. Have the bachelorette weekend coming up next month, and then lots of fun stuff with that. And then we have a few other weddings out of town too. So that's all for now. Nothing big planned yet.
Gotcha. Well, what about your clients? Do you have any client success stories that you can share with us?
Yeah, I just had a client who was amazing. She just finished up and she did so well. She did a ton of traveling and she was super, super busy. She's getting married this fall. So she was getting ready for her bachelorette weekend and she had tons of travel for work and for fun. And we just finished up and she lost her goal weight of her 5%. And she also lost a significant amount of inches around her entire body where she measured to track that. And so I'm just super, super proud of her. She really found success in figuring out how to navigate balancing weight loss and also still living her life, which is what is so important to figure out and what we're going to talk about a lot today. So I'm just super proud of her. And she put in a lot of hard work. Even when we ended, she was like, I realized that I had to relearn everything I knew about dieting and weight loss and that it's so much more complex and so much harder. But that the consistency and just really that slow progress is what is going to last and the weight changes that are going to stay for the long haul. So super proud of her. She's crushing it.
Awesome. Yeah. I feel like the clients I have, they find it's harder and easier at the same time. The only way I know how to describe that is just I feel like the habits themselves aren't difficult, but it's the consistency is difficult because so many clients I feel are frustrated that the one day of exercise didn't cause them to lose weight, but it's no, we only need to do 20, 30 minutes, but we do need to do that throughout the week consistently a couple times forever. And I think that is where my clients find the hard part. Is that kind of what you're referring to, or what do you mean with the hard part?
Yeah, the consistency of yes, the habits, of course, there are lots of things to work on with eating and exercise, but the consistency of doing those day in and day out is what's really going to make the long-term change.
And then what about you? Any wellness habits or foods you've been loving that you can share?
Yeah, I love with summer coming up, all the veggies, putting them on the grill. I always love making a veggie beans, a cold salad to keep in the fridge. That always helps me get in produce. So doing beans, tomatoes, cucumber, onion, and some cheese, like anything, any combination like that. And keeping that in the fridge, that always helps me eat more veggies and always tastes nice and fresh during the summer. And then otherwise, I feel like yard work has been such a great way to get in physical activity on the weekend. So we always have lots of yard work to do. We're always doing some new project in our backyard. We just got chickens. So we built a chicken coop. We have our little chicks growing. So that'll be fun to get them out there in their coop, but we're always doing something. And that's always such a good way to like be active in, to me, a way that doesn't feel like as much of a chore of like going to the gym.
Dang, I guess I didn't realize you were like a farm girly. Are you gonna like do everything or just the chickens?
Just the chickens. We still live in the city, so that's all we're allowed to have. So city farm girl.
So, but you'll be able to get eggs, or is it more just like a pet?
Yeah. No, we got hens to lay eggs, so that'll be really fun.
Well, cool. Well, that is super exciting and a great way to like get outside, get some steps in for our article for today. So I left it up to a poll. So go make sure to go follow us on Instagram if you ever want to contribute to what you're listening to on the podcast. But we're going to talk about WaterTok. So on TikTok, there has been this trend that I accidentally fell into. And now that's like all I see is these people that are getting these huge things of water, mostly I feel like out of those huge Stanley cups, and then adding like all these flavorings to them. And then of course there's like all this hubbub about like, oh, that's not even water. It's basically just soda or it's just juice. And then the other people are like, no, it is water and da da da. But I just wanted to see like what you kind of were thinking about it. Is it something that people should do if they're losing weight? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I think it's funny that it's a trend because flavored water has been around for a long time. Like
Yeah.
I think my whole childhood, my dad was drinking Crystal Light, and now like all of these things are so popular. So I feel like probably the last 10 years, even the last 5 years, they've started to get very creative in all of their flavorings, the Skittles, the Jolly Ranchers, they have every candy that you could ever want in some sort of sugar-free flavor packet. So I think the reason these have become so popular is just because some people really struggle to drink plain water. And this is a way to help increase your fluid intake. So obviously plain water is different than flavored water, but you're still drinking, part of it is still water. So it's still helping you get your fluid intake in. But of course, like it's going to be flavored with artificial sweeteners and different dyes and those kinds of things. So that's more up to you if you feel like, if you're really struggling to drink water and this is going to help you, I think that's still a win. But there's no need to go start drinking this if you're already doing great at the plain water. Stick to the plain water.
Gotcha. Okay. So stick to the plain water if you're already doing it. It's not going to like overall be healthier is what you're saying, to like drink more and more water of this like flavored kind.
No, definitely not.
I thought it was interesting. Like when I was like personally interested in it, I kind of like fell into like all these like, I mean, I didn't try it. It's just like interesting to see the discourse. But then when I was reading the article, Forbes wrote an article about it. I didn't realize it kind of came from like the bariatric surgery space, which made me even more interested because that's super weight loss specific. And there's even some dietitians kind of cited in the article talking about their recommendations for it. Can you kind of explain why you think there's a link between why this would come out of like the bariatric surgery recommendation world?
Before and after surgery, depending on the patient and what kind of surgery they're having, there's usually a course of at least clear liquids or full liquids. So full liquids, think like you could drink like a pureed soup, or you could drink a protein shake, whereas clear liquids would just be like water, Jello, flavored water, those kinds of things. So I think the tie-in is that if you're only drinking plain water and this is like all you're having for a long period of time, people are going to get bored with that. And so those flavorings are things that people who are preparing for recovering from bariatric surgery may use to have some variety. And then again, also, if you're someone who really struggles to get your fluid intake, it's very important pre and post surgery to stay hydrated and to get the amount of fluids that your doctor recommends. And so this is probably something that they use to help people encourage them to drink more fluids if they're struggling to meet that goal.
So you're not saying that drinking these like flavored drinks or like drinking in a huge amount of water is helping them lose weight. It's more just like to care for the surgery.
Correct. Yeah. That's not causing the weight, them just have. Now, if they're put on a clear liquid diet to prepare for surgery, that's obviously going to cause some weight loss. That is specific to surgery. That is not a general recommendation for anyone to just go out and do. That's not a good idea. So yes, part of that is tied to the weight loss because of what they've been recommended. But for the average person who's eating a balanced diet and, trying to lose weight, and they're choosing between plain water or flavored water.
Hey, with a new month comes a new product I'd like to share with you. And for June, I want to talk to you about Fire Belly tea. A lot of people have been interested in non-alcoholic alternatives, and their iced tea is a great 0-calorie option to keep stocked for when you're tired of just plain water. If you know me, I'm all about eating and drinking whole, natural foods to the best of your ability, and tea is just that. I feel like people forget about this OG water alternative when there's so many other things out there right now. So I'm going to remind you of some of the benefits and why I like this tea so much. So Fire Belly teas are a loose leaf, which makes it taste better because you get more surface area from the actual tea leaf. And they're also infused with herbs, spices, and fruits, which give them very unique flavors. They're also just super vibey. What sucked me in is their packaging. So I'll show you here some of the packaging. It just seems, I don't know, super cool and trendy. And their flavors are great. And then the bespoke iced tea carafe. Super cool and really cute to put in your fridge, and you pour it out like that. Sometimes we choose the higher calorie drink option because the marketing sucks us in and it makes us think it's the cooler option. But we can make low calorie drink options cool too, so that we don't have to feel like we're depriving ourselves of a fun drink experience. They also just have so much to choose from. They have green tea, black tea, herbal tea, mate tea. I don't know what that is. I hope I said it right. Matcha, oolong, and my favorite right now, iced teas. Or like teas that would be really well iced. You can take their online quiz for a customized recommendation, cater to your desired time to drink the tea, your benefit you want, and the flavor you want. When I took the quiz, I was recommended the after dinner mint, which is chocolate, mint, and valerian root, and the crowd pleaser, which is black tea with vanilla and almond. I think because I said that I really like coffee flavors, but those sound really, really good to me. But my personal favorite is the Caribbean Dream, which I have here, and I really like making it iced. It has pieces of coconut, pineapple, and apple crisp, so it feels like I'm drinking a pina colada without all of the calories or the hangover. They also have a lot of recipes on their blog that I want to try with some of the iced tea blends so that I can make it more of a mocktail in the summer. So they have recipe that's Thai iced tea with peaches. I feel like Thai iced tea is like super popular right now. And the Caribbean coconut lime tea, which I think you can make with the Caribbean Dream. So that sounds super fun. And I want to make a whole batch to bring to my next book club to help my friends also learn about some healthier drink options. They reached out to me to try their product, and as soon as I opened their box, I knew this would be our next podcast sponsor because they're not making any crazy health claims about like it being a skinny tea or metabolism boosting or anything like that. They're just making a 0-calorie drink option and overall experience. Swapping out that higher calorie alcohol drink on these hot June days to Fire Belly iced tea could help you to achieve the calorie deficit you need to reach your health goals. Try Fire Belly tea today by going to www.firebellytea.com/ILA15 and use the discount code ILA15, it's ILLA 15 at checkout to receive 15% off. Well, hopping into our actual interview. So today I wanted to talk about weekends. We're kind of circling around like social life this month over on Millennial Living. So you and I kind of had a conversation a while back. I don't even know if you remember, where I was asking like, what do you feel like is the biggest like reason some people have difficulty losing weight, and you said the weekends. And so I kept that in the back of my head until today and wanted to pick your brain about it because I agree. I think that's hard. And one thing I commonly hear on discovery calls is like, I feel like my weekdays are great, but then the weekends it all unravels. So I want to kind of pick into that a little bit. Starting off with, how does being consistent on the weekend help with weight loss? So like really broadly, like why should people care about this?
If we're looking at the weekend as Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's 3 out of your 7 days. That's 43% of your week. So if anything, if you're looking at any sort of goal that you're trying to set and 43% of the time you're not working on it, you're probably not going to see the success you want to see. So I think it's really easy to feel like, okay, Monday through Thursday or even Friday morning, things are going great. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, things are all out the window. That's just not a good formula to help you see success. So I think that is why is like, that's a big chunk of your week. I think it's easy to feel like it's a small part, but it's still a big chunk of your week. So I think that's why it's so important to figure out how to still have those fun social things, but also have balance if your goal is weight loss.
It's a good way to put it. I guess I didn't realize, dang, it's like almost 50%. I guess I never thought about it that way because it really does seem like those 2 days, but it is like really is Friday too, especially if people have off. And I'm starting to kind of come around to this like analogy of like consistency. Like we wouldn't just go to work one day and expect a paycheck. Like you wouldn't go to work 60% and expect to do well. Like, you've got to do
Yeah.
it, all the days you're expected to. So I think that's another really good way to put it that I never thought about.
Mhm.
But do you have to be perfect on the weekend to lose weight? I think there's a conception here with, or like a thought about this too, like, and why or why not?
Yeah. So no, you do not have to be perfect on the weekend. Perfection is not realistic for anyone. So we're looking for just, how can you create balance over the weekend? I had a client, I think I've had many clients like this who do great during the week and then totally struggle by the weekend. And what we realized with her was that she was being really strict during the week. She was like, I'm doing everything. I'm getting in my fruits and vegetables. I'm doing all my exercise. I'm not having any dessert. I'm not having any drinks. And then the weekend was like her time to let loose. And then consistently we saw over a few weeks, like, hey, this isn't working. And so we talked actually more about adding in some things throughout the week that she did enjoy. So it doesn't feel so restrictive because that's not the goal. The goal is not to feel so restrictive just so you can live for the weekend, right? That's not a fun way to live forever. So we focused on adding in things throughout the week so that it didn't feel so restrictive. And she noticed over time that like the weekend didn't feel like, oh, I finally made it to this reward. Like she was able to have things that she enjoyed while also losing weight throughout the week. And then she was able to make much more reasonable choices throughout the weekend. And that really helped set her up for success. And I think that's helpful for anyone to do. So again, not perfection, but how can we, choose things that we enjoy while also choosing balanced things that are going to help fuel our body, prevent us from overeating, those kinds of things.
What are two of the biggest struggles that you see for clients on the weekends?
Yeah. So I'd say the biggest one is eating out, just with like friends or family, or especially like this past weekend, I had a graduation party, a baby shower, a dinner with friends, and two birthday parties. Like there's just always things going on, right? That was obviously a crazy weekend for me. That's not typical, but there's always something going on. There's always going to be a celebration. It seems like food is always involved with those kinds of things. And so I think eating out is a huge one. And I think it's really about choosing like what is important to you. So for example, like if I'm going to some sort of shower and there's going to be a lot of munchy food that's maybe more high calorie, but like I don't have a whole lot of interest in, but I know I'm going out to dinner to one of my favorite restaurants, I'm going to try and choose something more balanced at the shower, right? And then I'm going to, at dinner get to enjoy what I want to enjoy versus saying like I'm just going to go out all out at every single event that's happening this weekend. That's not going to help me be successful. So I think it's choosing, if you're going out to multiple meals, choose one that you're most excited about and the other try and choose, balance them like you would be eating at home. Choose some protein, choose some produce. That's going to be really helpful. And then also if you're going out to eat and there's appetizers and a meal and drinks and dessert, again, having all of those is not going to help you lose weight. So what is important to you? Does this place have a cocktail that you really love? Does it have an appetizer that you love? Does it have dessert that you love or a meal? Choose one of those that's your favorite and then try and choose a more balanced option for the other things.
Okay, so again, it kind of comes back to that idea of like picking where to spend like those fun calories or like not this all or nothing, but instead like
Yeah.
saying, okay, this is the thing I really want. And the other things, in order for me to like be able to meet a calorie deficit and to lose weight, are going to have to be more focused on like the produce and the protein and making sure you don't overdo it on the carbs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there another struggle that you see a lot?
Yeah. So the other one I touched on a little bit, but is the drinking.
Mm.
So I think oftentimes I have a lot of clients who really struggle with drinks. Again, if you have a couple of drinks, especially if you're having cocktails or craft beer, that can end up being the calories of an entire meal. And then you still go on to eat an entire meal. And then maybe if you continue drinking, your inhibition's down a little bit, and then you're having late night snacks. And all of a sudden, in just a couple hours, we've consumed, what your calories maybe should be for a whole day.
Mhm.
So I think that's where things can get really carried away. It's just important to kind of take a step back and see, if you have drinking habits that are contributing to excess calories, like what kind of changes can you make that are going to be realistic? So where you can still enjoy things, still have some balance. It doesn't again need to be all or nothing, but just knowing that it plays a part. I've had multiple clients be like, when they start tracking, say like, "Oh, I had no idea." I had one client who loved espresso martinis and was drinking them all the time. And she was like, I did not know there was a lot of calories in those. And so again, it's bringing awareness to what you're putting in your body and seeing how that's going to fit. And like, if having an espresso martini is really fun for you and you love them, great. But like, don't have multiple and then also have this huge meal. That's not going to help you set you up for success if weight loss is your goal.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, that I feel like I don't have this be a problem for the long term. I feel like it typically takes like 1 weekend for a client to go like, "I don't even want you to look at that because that was so many things." I had one recently that I started with and she was like, "I didn't even wanna log everything because I didn't want you to judge me." I was like, "I'm never gonna judge you." She's like, "I realize now that like, even though I eat like really well when I go on vacation or something, like
Mhm.
all of those like gin and tonics, even though they're like pretty, low calorie, like 5 or 6 of them is like throughout the day is a lot of calories. Like
Yeah.
5 or think about it like 5 or 6 sodas, 5 or 6 brownies, stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I think that's one where like tracking can really help. Even just one time, it seems to just take one time for people to
Yeah.
realize.
I find the same thing with my clients too. It's a very eye-opening experience.
Some people, when I was trying to think through, like when I have clients struggle with the weekends, I feel like something that comes up a lot for me or like that they say they have a lack of structure where like the weekdays, like they have to pack a lunch, so that's taken care of. Like there's a time to be at work, so like they have to make sure to eat breakfast. And then the weekend, kind of like a weekend where you're describing for yourself, like all that tends to unravel because there's no like
Yeah.
set lunchtime. There's nothing like that. Is there any way to remedy that kind of situation, do you think?
Yeah, so I think anything you can do to recreate some sort of structure is gonna be really helpful. I think oftentimes people sleep in on Saturday or Sunday,
Mm,
then they might have brunch, and then they just kind of snack and graze throughout the day and then have a big dinner. And so I think it's really easy to get out of your routine. So I would say if you can eat 3 meals, that would be ideal. If you're just gonna have brunch and dinner, then I would really focus on having, like, a good balanced snack with fiber and protein in the afternoon.
mhm.
Um, 'Cause that's gonna help prevent, like, all of that grazing or going into a dinner starving, right? That's not gonna help set you up for success either. So, I think if you can stick to 3 meals, great. If not, 2 meals and a really good balanced snack is gonna help you significantly.
Okay, so I hear you saying kinda like 2 almost like 2 different ways to think about it, like, you could either kinda, like, stick to the structure you're having with
Mhm.
trying to, like, have those meals or even, like, have better structure within the meals that you're already eating,
Yeah.
like, see if those components are there, not just, like, have nothing. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, like, it's just another day of the week, right? So, like, you don't have to treat it like, okay, this everything has to be a special occasion on the weekends. Like, your breakfast on Saturday morning can be the same as your breakfast on a Wednesday morning. Like, it doesn't have to be fancy. Of course, if you have more time or you want to, but then like that, if you do have more time, that gives you like an opportunity that you can create, spend more time in the kitchen, create maybe like a fancy omelet with some protein and some veggies in it, and make a fruit salad or something like that, right? It doesn't have to be like, I'm only having pancakes with chocolate chips and a ton of syrup. You can make different balanced items that are still going to help set you up for success.
And then what about activity? I feel like sometimes people do struggle with this, like, is it even something people should be working on for the weekend? If so, like, is there a way to be active on the weekend while maintain a social life? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's always any sort of exercise on the weekend is always a win. I encourage my clients to shoot for at least one time of exercise on the weekend. Of course, if anything more is even better. But I think that this is a great opportunity. The way we sort of see food is like treating ourselves. Like look at exercise in a way that you can like treat yourself to do something different on the weekend. So you have more time. You're may not be at work or have the same work schedule. So, how can you use that extra time to do something you really enjoy? Maybe it's going to a workout class. I know, like in my city, there's tons of free workouts available on the weekends, like at parks and things like that. So, maybe search for a free workout class in your area. Maybe you go on a hike. Maybe you go on a long walk. Maybe you turn, like, instead of just going out for brunch or coffee with friends, like, can you grab coffee and go on a walk with them or head to like a walking path or something like that? I think people, whenever I suggest that, friends are always like, "Oh my gosh, what a great idea. That's awesome." So even today, I'm instead of going out for to meet my friend for a drink, she's like, "Do you want to just go on a walk?" And I was like, "Amazing. Yeah." So like people are always down for those kinds of things. So I think incorporating it in like a fun way. So find something that you enjoy. Like I was saying, like yard work. That's a great way to get physical activity or gardening or going on a hike or doing a yoga class or something like that. Find something that you enjoy that's going to get your body moving. And then that will feel like kind of more fun and different out of your, like, regular, workout routine from the week.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. It's almost like rethinking of like how you spend your weekend of like the activity can be fun too. And I think you even described some good ones in the beginning too with like your chicken coop. I'm sure that's some
Yeah.
fun to spend time with your husband. I've been loving pickleball with my husband on the
Yeah,
weekends.
we've been doing that too.
Yeah, and then this weekend, I was even just thinking what popped in my head, I was spending time with one friend, like, basically all weekend because we were doing, like, a bunch of events, and she was like, "I've never had a weekend this active," and I was thinking, I guess, like, that's true on On Saturday, we kind of separately, like she went and did a run club and I did pickleball with David. And then we went to this like skate park opening, which we were like walking around. And so that was active. And then the next day, Susie, her
Yeah.
husband has a laser tag. And that's like really
Yeah.
like really like exercise friendly because you're having to like run around. And so we went to go do that as a group too. So I think there's a lot of things you just kind of maybe need to reframe your mind around like
Yeah.
the only way to be social isn't just like going out for a drink.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And people love those. Like, it's always fun to like learn something new with friends or like you said, pickleball, go play tennis, go on a walk, go learn something, some sort of new thing that you can do together.
Okay, next thing feel like I see a lot for weekends is struggling with produce. Any
Mhm.
just like tips on how to add produce to the weekend? Because I feel like I see sometimes where, yeah, it's like going, I feel like I don't know if it's the going out that's a like difficulty, or I get the complaint a lot of like, well, I went to this like potluck and then there was nothing there. What are your like some tips to get in more produce in the weekends?
Yeah, so I'd say for going out, there should always be some sort of produce on the menu. So if you see anything in an entree, like if you don't see the side of Brussels sprouts or broccoli or asparagus or salad, whatever, but you see it incorporated in another meal, you can always just ask your server for a side of a veggie. They typically always have one, so that's a great way to do it. And then I would say when you're at home, the biggest thing is to be prepared. I think oftentimes clients prepare for their week and their meals. And then it's like, well, I'll just figure out the weekend. And then they open their fridge and there's nothing. Oh, well, let's go out to eat or let's order in. Right. So I suggest a lot of my clients on Friday, like Thursday or Friday, to do an extra grocery delivery or a quick grocery run on your way home from work and
Mhm.
pick up things to help prepare yourself for the weekend. So having frozen options available, having fresh options available, even canned, all of those are great to just have available on hand so that you don't have the excuse of, well, there's nothing I can have, right? How can you set yourself up for success by being prepared, having those things available at home? That can really help clients and all of us be able to get in more produce over the weekend.
Okay, gotcha. So again, it's just like carrying over that structure from the weekend, not treating it just like a all out nothing, but it doesn't have to be this like really strict of like you have to pack your lunch, put it in the fridge and eat it at this time type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And then the potluck, I would say like you can bring something with veggies. I always do that. Or bring something with protein. Either one of those are going to be really helpful in filling you up. So that's a great way to do it. And then, just scope out the options of what they have. If they don't have something, you can always bring something.
Do you have like a go-to thing you always bring, or how do you know what to bring?
I'm always for like family events, I'm always salad girl.
Mhm.
And then otherwise I try and make like a fun veggie tray and I always
Mhm.
make like some sort of dip. I love doing like Greek yogurt with a bunch of like different herbs and spices in
Mm.
there. It's kind of like ranch, but it's like a thicker dip and everyone always loves it. I'm like, it's made with Greek yogurt. And they're like, what? So always some sort of like veggie tray like that is really fun. Or if you're doing like a full dinner, like a cooked veggie 2 weeks ago, we had like a murder mystery potluck dinner and I made roasted carrots. So, just figuring out some way to bring in something and people always enjoy it. They're always happy that there's something there.
Yeah, my favorite challenge is like when I have a client who will successfully bring the veggie tray, but then like everybody ate it and she couldn't even eat it. And so
Oh,
but I'm like, I think that's good because then you kind of become that person that always brings it and then people will constantly ask you to bring that thing. So I
yeah.
think it's a good problem to have. What about like really narrowing in on the week eating out? So I know you kind of already touched on this and it's even okay if you just repeat things so people can just drill it into their head, but yes, eating out is like such a big, I feel like one of the biggest culprits when it comes to weekend and not being successful. So, what are your 1 to 2 tips for this?
Choose what's important to you. Don't treat every single occasion like I have to go all out for this. So choose whether that's a meal that's important or a component of a meal that's important that you really want to have. The same thing like when we talk about like holiday potluck meals and you're going through the line and there's 25 options of carbs you could have. Like choose what you like, choose what and then leave the rest of them.
Mm.
Kind of the same idea as far as eating out. So choose what's important to you in the meal or choose one meal of the weekend that's going to be important to you if you have multiple, and then try and make balanced choices for the rest of it. So again, always try and getting in the protein and the produce somewhere. That's going to be super helpful. And then I think drinks, if you aren't aware, haven't tracked your drinks before, I highly recommend doing it just to have a little rude awakening to what's in those and just to be aware of how that fits in everything.
Yeah, I think the good thing with drinking is that, or tracking is I know that we have challenges with, like, tracking a lot of food out, but typically, like, drinks, you can even ask the bartender what it is, or, like, I feel like most people do go for those, like, just, like, beers or, like, seltzers or, like, those other drinks or even, like, espresso martinis are pretty basic drinks and that it's
Mhm.
pretty easy to track, unlike food that's, like, you don't ever know
Yeah.
what's in there, so that
Yeah.
could be easy, but what about social eating? So I guess all these kind of are social eating, but, like, narrowing in on, like, why you might feel like people struggle with this. I know that when I get this challenge with clients, it's because maybe they like are so flustered with people and they can't think about like what to have and then they just have what their friends having or maybe they do like a
Mhm.
tapas style meal and they're like, "Well, I didn't want to be rude." What about like challenges for social eating on the weekend that could cause people to way overeat? What are your solutions there?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one I think is really just to like pause and remind yourself like what you're doing. So like if you're going out to eat with friends, the main goal is just to be together, right? Of course you are going to enjoy some food together or maybe you're trying a new restaurant, which is awesome, but like the point is to be together or with your friends, family, whoever it is. And so I think oftentimes it's easy to get really caught up in like, oh my gosh, this is just about the food. I can't stop thinking about it. How is this going to work? And remind yourself that like the most important thing is that you get to be with your friends and family. I feel like, especially after coming out of the pandemic, like that has been such a reminder for all of us. It's like, that's what's important. It doesn't matter what you're doing. It just matters that you get to be together.
Mhm.
So I think reframing it can be really helpful. That kind of takes some of the like pressure and like some of the pressure just off the food being like the
Mhm.
highest, most important part of all of it.
Mhm.
And so then from there, I think what's helpful is if you are ordering things that you're all going to be sharing. Normally, at least when I do that with my friends, we all go around and say like we each pick one thing or two things if it's tapas. And so see what other people are getting. If there hasn't been a protein or a produce chosen, then choose one of those so that you know there's going to at least be something that you can have. And then putting things on your plate is really helpful. So it's easy to just, in potluck style, to just eat off of, out of the container or serving platter, whatever it may be on, and have no idea how much you're actually having. So I really encourage clients to plate food so that they can see how much they're having. I think that's really helpful. And then again, if you're going somewhere ordering a veggie or protein, or if you're bringing food, be the person that brings one of those. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, no, I think all those are great. And this weekend, I practiced what I preach. I was at Susie's and she made these wonderful nachos, but I was eating a bunch of them. And I just asked her, "Hey, do you want me to put this food up? Do you want me to help? Because I know that if it's there, I will just continually eat it." And that's one thing that I tell clients too. If you find like at a potluck style thing, like if you're just like around the food and continue to snack on it, then maybe like remove yourself from that situation. Or I had one client once say this where she just like physically put up the food that nobody was eating anymore. And that can
Mhm.
also, I think, be another thing that kind of helps. Cause I think it's easy, yeah, to like just like kind of go into autopilot and eat the food that's like the
Yeah,
tastiest when you're around people. So I think that could be kind of helpful.
definitely.
What about like, okay, like you make all these plans and then like literally none of like it all goes awry. What would you say to something like that is like, do we just need to calm down, move on? Like, is there anything like any other backup plan? What about that?
I would just say take a deep breath. It's gonna be okay. Like one day, one weekend, one meal is not ruining anything, right? So I just was telling my client this the other day. She ordered out and ended up eating more than she wanted to, and she was so frustrated with herself. And I said, if you had eaten a salad, what would you say? And she said, I would say I was healthy. I made a good decision. And I was like, and if you had eaten what you just say, what would you say? She would say, oh, well, I made a bad decision. I was like, okay, do you think one of those meals has power to make you healthy or unhealthy? And she's like, oh, I guess not. So I think it's just a good reminder that like choosing one balanced meal does not make you quote unquote healthy. Choosing one unbalanced meal doesn't make you unhealthy either. So just again, back to that, like consistency is what matters. What you're doing consistently over time is what's going to make the difference.
Mhm.
And so if you had a crazy weekend and everything went out of control and you overate and you had too many high calorie drinks, like take a deep breath. It's okay. Every meal, every new meal is a new opportunity for you to choose how to nourish your body. So the best thing you can do is just have your next meal be balanced. Don't restrict, don't go crazy. Don't keep dwelling on the past. It is what it is. You can't change it. And so the only positive thing you can do is move forward. And I
Mhm.
think if you're seeing a pattern of this, like reflect on like what's causing that. Is it because I don't have any good, food options available at home? Is it because I'm always, going out to eat too often? Is it because I'm not active? Is it because I have these barriers in the way? Like figure out what's going on so that instead of just like being a victim to your own life, you're actually seeing what's happening and you can make some changes.
Yeah, and I think that's where working with a dietitian can come in because if you can't think of the, solutions, that's what we're here for. It reminds me of a client I had once, and she was a mom, and so she was always gone to, like, all these, like, baseball games, soccer games all day long, so she was like, "There's just, nothing there that I can order that's, like, fruits or vegetables," because that was her biggest thing, so we really just worked on what she could pack to these games. So she need to have, like, a little applesauce squeezy packet in her pocketbook, like, how is she gonna really make this work? Because there are a lot of solutions, but if you can't really think through them, that might be where working with a dietitian really comes in to kinda help you
Mhm.
think through, and then, yeah, calm yourself down. Because I was gonna say that too. It's just like you have an opportunity to every meal to kinda keep going, and if you just take it meal
Yeah.
after meal, you'll get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about the biggest tip or a big tip for the mindset of, like, I do really good on the weekdays, but then everything falls apart on the weekend?
So I think this is back to like what I said in the beginning, like your Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 43% of your week. That's a lot. Zoom out and like remind yourself that again, like you said, if I only showed up for, 60% of my work week, that's not going to help. That doesn't earn me a paycheck. So
Mhm.
how can we really figure out how to balance that? And then again, I think if you're restricting a lot during the week, that's a recipe for disaster on the weekends. So how can you bring more balance throughout your week so that the weekend doesn't feel like, okay, I finally made it. Now I can eat what I want
Mhm.
before Monday comes. Like that's not a healthy mentality to be in either. So how can you kind of bring in balance of foods that you like during the week and then also, make more balanced choices, try and stick to a more structured meal pattern over the weekend, be mindful of eating out and drinks. How can you get some exercise, move your body? I think that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah, so I hear you kinda saying, like, taking it all slow, like, it doesn't need to be this, like, aggressive, like, idea of, like, "Well, then you better not ever eat out or bring the food
Mhm.
scale and, like, make sure you go to the boot camp." It sounds like you're just kinda giving, like, a bunch of different options and saying, like, "Pick some that work for you, let's be realistic, evaluate why you're even feeling like you're overeating, and work from there." Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think when I think about this question, that's how I would kinda answer it too, is, like, kind of first thinking through, like, why do you feel like your weekends are so off? Is it because you're restricting? Are you treating food as, like, this reward on the weekend? Are you treating it
Yeah.
just, like, as a social event? Really decoupling that, and then, yeah, making sure you're not too restrictive on those weekdays, and I think too,
Mhm.
like, reframing, like, what it looks like. A lot of times I feel like when I get these on the discovery call end, people have this perception of they have to be so strict every day. So then, like, of course, they can't do it through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I think even reframing, like, what even is like healthy for weight loss would be
Yeah.
helpful as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you kind of paint a picture of what a successful weekend can look like? Maybe you've had a client who's done this, or yourself, or like ideally what it would look like. Can you paint us a picture?
So I have a client who is super busy, very, very social. She's eating out a lot on the weekends. And she was realizing that like her eating out and drinking was definitely preventing her success.
Mm.
So a few things that she did. One, she figured out like a way to get active. She was working out in the gym during the week and then was doing no activity over the weekend, was struggling to get her 10,000 steps. So she decided to do something fun. Like I talk about, what different ways we can get activity in. So maybe it was going for a hike, maybe it was going skiing, maybe it was doing a workout class, whatever it may be. But she found something each weekend that was more like of a fun thing to do that was still active. And that really helped her as well. And then she was also skipping breakfast. So she was sleeping in like an hour or two later than normal, but then she wouldn't eat breakfast. And then she would just have lunch or brunch. And then she found herself like kind of snacking or munching throughout the day, getting to like kind of saving up for dinner and then having this huge dinner. So she was realizing that wasn't working. So she started eating breakfast, just having something small, even because she wasn't super hungry, but just having some sort of protein. Normally it was like eggs or some Greek yogurt and then some fruit, some fiber getting in there. And that really helped control her hunger throughout the rest of the day. And that kind of, prevented her from being like super, super hungry or grazing all the time. And then when she was going out to eat, she really worked on choosing like, okay, this place, I love their calamari appetizer. Okay. Well, if I love the calamari, I'm probably not also going to choose like the burger and the fries and the lemon drop martini and the chocolate cake for dessert. Right. So again, it's like bringing balance. So if she really loves the fried calamari, then maybe she chooses, the fish tacos or the grilled chicken sandwich or a salad with salmon on it for dinner. And then maybe, she chooses to have drinking more water, but then also choosing like a seltzer or a lighter beer instead of like multiple cocktails. And so I think again, it's just like figuring out how to balance things that allows you to still enjoy. And then if she had multiple eating out times on the weekend, she would just try and choose, follow my plate and figure out how she could choose balanced meals throughout the rest of the weekend. And honestly, like, this is what I try and do too. So I think this is really helpful to for the graduation party, there was pizza. So then I also got salad. And then at the shower, there was a fruit and veggie tray. And then they also had chicken salad sandwiches. So like, again, it's how can we bring in balance? The cookies looked amazing and they were like homemade. So I had a cookie. So like figuring out how you can bring balance there is really important. And that's what this client did. And this really helped her succeed. And I think it's what everyone can focus on.
Yeah, so the highlights I'm kind of hearing of what she did that made a big impact was having a little something at breakfast so she wasn't super hungry throughout the day, finding some way to be active that she liked that also seemed fun, wasn't like a chore, but was helping probably burn a little bit more calories, maybe also helping consistency on her other workouts.
Mhm.
And then also really prioritizing what she liked to eat to spend those calories on, the fried calamari, and negotiating with herself to not spend the calories on the other things that she didn't like as much. And all of those efforts probably helped her to be within a calorie deficit, burn a little bit more calories, but also make her not feel like her weekends were so strict.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, that concludes our interview on the weekends. Please make sure to rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify so we can make sure to reach other people who need us over there. And thank you so much for joining us today, Catherine.
Thanks for having me, Isla.
Thank you so much for listening to the Millennial Nutritionist Podcast. For daily weight loss tips and nutrition information, you can find us on Instagram at the.millennial.nutritionist and on TikTok at millennial.nutritionist. If you find this information helpful, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with a friend who needs encouragement on their health journey. See you in the next episode.